By far, the most common destination that you guys request tutorials for is Japan. Last year, I took an incredible trip to Tokyo and Kyoto, and in today's tutorial, we are going to show you step by step how to recreate this trip for yourself. And make sure you stay until the end to see the full cost breakdown and how much we actually ended up spending out of pocket. Let's jump right in. Before going to Japan, since we do live in Las Vegas and it's a smaller airport hub that doesn't have a lot of direct flights internationally, we did have to do a positioning flight over to Los Angeles. So here's how we did this. If you have the American Express Platinum card or Business Platinum card, every year you get a $200 airline incidental credit. How this is supposed to work is that you choose your airline of choice. It can be Southwest, JetBlue, United, Frontier, Hawaiian, Alaska, American Airlines, Delta. They have most of the US-based airlines in there that you can choose from. So you pick one, and then you can receive $200 back per calendar year in statement credits when you purchase things like seat assignments or onboard food or beverage credit or bag statements or something like that. What we did was not that. We chose United as our airline of choice. And then we actually went to the United Travel Bank and then clicked Fund My Travel Bank. And you can find this just by Googling unitedtravelbank.com. Then we went ahead and signed in. And then from here, you would say, I'm buying a travel bank cash. Then we would do this in $100 increments, because what we found was that if you do small enough increments, like $100, it's going to code as an incidental credit, and then we would get the rebate back on our statement, which I'll show you in just a bit. But then you would just use your American Express card here, AMEX Platinum or AMEX Business Platinum, enter in all your card information, and then say buy now. And then you would have the travel credits show up in your United account. So if everything works correctly, this is what it should look like on your statement, where you see these Amex airline fee reimbursements that are about $100 each come through here. But that's how you know that everything went through correctly. From there, once you have the $200 per card loaded into your United account, then you would just book a United flight as usual, where you would say, I am looking for flights from Las Vegas over to Los Angeles, round trip for whatever dates you are looking for. You can say flexible days in February. This is fine. Or you can do this one way at a time and then click find flights. And you would be booking these as cash flights. It's going to look like it costs X $100, but then you would just get $200 off per Amex Platinum or Amex Business Platinum incidental credits that you've loaded into your United account. Between me and my husband, I have an Amex Platinum, he has an Amex Platinum, and I have an Amex Business Platinum. So 200 times 3 is 600. We got about $600 off of this $683 round trip first class positioning flights. And we did that because I mostly just wanted to use all the credits up in one go. I didn't want to have to go back and forth and check, okay, have I used this already? Have I not used this? For 6 different economy flights or something like that, I kind of just wanted to get it all done in one piece. Before you do this trick and load your Amex incidental credits into United or whatever other airline you choose, I would recommend checking out this frequent miler article, Amex airline fee reimbursements, what still works. They update it every few months whenever they figure out something else that works or something that doesn't. So here are all of the different airlines that you can choose from for the Amex Platinum credit. You can choose Alaska, American, Delta, Frontier, Hawaiian, JetBlue, Spirit, Southwest, or United. And you can read through this article to see exactly what you need to do to get different unofficial things that work for your Amex incidental credit. Whenever we're doing a positioning flight over to Los Angeles, we tend to just explore the city for a night. I never want to be in a position where my positioning flight from Las Vegas over to Los Angeles is delayed by a couple hours. We're rushing through LAX airport to get to a different booking, to get to an international flight to Japan. I just don't want to be in that kind of situation. So I always give us another day to do the positioning flight, which means we usually need to book a hotel in Los Angeles for that night. For this particular trip that we did to Japan last year, we stayed at the Hyatt Regency at LAX, which is 12,000 points a night or $180. And those prices are still pretty similar to what we saw last year. Now, I am not going to pay 12,000 points a night to save $180. If it's 12,000 Hyatt points, I would want that hotel price to be at least $240 for me to consider using my points. So we just paid money for this. Paid exactly $180 actually. So we paid for a 1 king bed, $180. And we did get a globalist upgrade to a 1-bedroom king suite, which was really nice. It was valued at about $430 last year as well. Looks like inflation has luckily not hit this hotel in the last year. But that was the hotel that we stayed in Los Angeles the night before our flight over to Japan. Jumping around in the itinerary a little bit, we did also need to book a hotel in Los Angeles on the way back because, once again, we had to do a positioning flight from Los Angeles back home to Las Vegas the next day. So on the return flight, our hotel that night was the Hotel June in West LA, which is a Marriott hotel, and you can find it just by searching for Hotel June, the dates that you want, click on Use Points and Certificates, and then say Find Hotels. Looks like the points price went up a little bit since last year. Last year it was lower than 35,000, so we were able to use a free night certificate, the 35,000 point free night certificate that comes with the Marriott Bonvoy business card or the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless card. That's what we used to stay at the Hotel June. If we look at the cash rates for this hotel, on the standard room, it starts at about $250 per night, which isn't too bad. Usually I try to go for something that's at least $300 if I'm using my 35,000 point free night certificate from Marriott. But we actually got upgraded to a 2-bedroom suite, which was insane. It's just very large. There wasn't a lot that was going on in the actual room, but it's in a decently walkable area. We were able to walk to lunch and walk to get some boba drinks or something from there. There's a park nearby. And with the 2 different bedrooms, my husband and I each got pretty much a full day of work in because we each had our own office effectively. And so that would go for more than $400 per night. So I was very happy with that upgrade that we got from Marriott. Worth noting though, for this hotel, even though I have titanium status, they didn't offer breakfast for titanium members at this hotel. We had to go get breakfast on our own. They did have free coffee for everybody in the lobby, so my husband was okay with just caffeinating. But if you're into the Marriott games for the free breakfast, this hotel unfortunately did not have that. If you're new to points and that felt like way too much information, don't worry. We have a free Points and Miles 101 course for you. The course covers everything that you need to know in order to earn points and get your first flight covered. Grab the free course at geobreezetravel.com/free course or check out the link in the description box. After we positioned to Los Angeles, then it was time to actually fly to Tokyo. There are actually a bunch of different ways to fly to Japan on points. For this trip, we used the Singapore Airlines 5th Freedom flight. Here's the play. Let me know also in the comments if you'd also like tutorials for how to book flights with ANA, Japan Airlines, or United Polaris. For our trip to Japan last January, we flew the 5th Freedom flight from Los Angeles over to Narita, Tokyo. There's a lot of different ways to fly from the West Coast over to Japan. We have since then flown ANA, we've flown Japan Airlines. I have not yet flown United Polaris, but there's a lot of different ways to do this. For this particular trip, we are going to go over how to do this with Singapore Airlines since they do operate a 5th Freedom flight between LAX and Tokyo. And I'll go over in just a bit why we decided to go with Singapore versus some of the other options. So to do this, you would just go to singaporeair.com, click on Redeem Flights from Los Angeles over to Tokyo, pick roughly the date that you want to travel, business class, search for 1 adult at a time, and then go ahead and click search. And so these days, this flight costs about $123,000 per person each way, which is a bit. If you wanted to search further out in the calendar, that's where you might find a little bit more availability with some saver space, starting at about 103,000 points rather than paying 123,000 per person each way. That being said, there is a way to get this even cheaper. We booked it through Singapore because there was a certain date range that we wanted to travel during. If you are more flexible with your dates, I would recommend going to seats.aero, click on Explore, then Air Canada, and then say you want to see flights from North America over to Asia. I recommend paying the $10 for the Pro version for the full year, and then searching LAX to NRT. At the time that I'm doing this, there's only 3 different dates that have this available, but sometimes you will be able to see saver space on Air Canada for the Singapore Airlines flight. This one does not have it. It looks like they've really cut back on how much partner availability they have available, because these, if you hover over the green price, you're going to see the code UA. That means these are all United Airlines flights, and there's not actually any of that partner availability with Singapore currently available on Air Canada. So similar to what we did, you would have to book this directly through Singapore. The prices for this flight have gone up since last year. What we paid last year was about $368,000 for 2 round-trip business class flights. So that comes out to about $92,000 per person each way. It's gone up since then, but I do really enjoy Singapore Airlines. I think it's probably my favorite business class flight product so far, especially due to their catering, which is amazing, and you get to choose from a whole book of a menu before you jump on your flight. So I'd still probably do it at 103.5 thousand points, but if they ever have that partner availability through Air Canada where it's available for 75,000 points, that is a sweet spot that I would most definitely jump on. Are you enjoying these types of step-by-step tutorials? If yes, please let me know. Click that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for even more points and miles tips every week. We release a weekly video with these types of step-by-step tutorials. And we also have a podcast where I interview points enthusiasts about different strategies every week. There are actually a bunch of different ways to fly to Japan on points. Let me know in the comments if you'd like tutorials for ANA, Japan Airlines, or United Polaris as well. But the great thing about Singapore Airlines is that they are a transfer partner with Chase, AMEX, Citi, and Capital One. So if you're in the market for a new credit card to help you earn even more points with any of these programs, we offer a free credit card consultation at geobreezetravel.com/consultations. We'll send you personalized recommendations based on your particular goals, budget, and lifestyle. And you might think that the flights are where you can get a lot of value out of your points, but for this trip, we actually got a ton more value out of our hotel stays than our flights. In fact, we arranged the entire trip just because I found some award space at a hard-to-book hotel. The first hotel that we stayed at once we were in Tokyo was the Hyatt Centric Ginza Tokyo Hotel, which is fantastic. It's a great location right next to a train stop, easy to walk to, and their breakfast is fantastic. We stayed in this king suite, and rather than booking a regular room for about 20,000, 21,000 points, we opted for my favorite type of rate, which is the LP suite upgrade rate. So currently it's going for about $681 plus 6,000 points per night. That is a lot more than what we paid. We paid $300 some dollars plus 6,000 points, which was a very good deal last year. I don't think I would pay close to $700 for this because let's look at the cash rate for the King Suite. For this, the member rate, we'll say, is $996 now minus $681 divided by 6,000 points is 5 cents per point, which is still really good. But I think that the cash price straight out last year was very similar. And so we were able to get a much, much higher cents per point redemption by paying a lower base cost that was available last year. That being said, it took me a bit of clicking to even find this rate. This is in January 2025. I was looking at different dates, even as far out as December 2024 for this hotel, the Hyatt Centric Ginza. And if we wanted to do the King Suite on points, it is not available. They only have the points rates available for the regular rooms and not the suites. And that was pretty typical of most dates that I checked out for 2024. So if you do want to jump on the points plus LP suite upgrade rate, this one you have to book pretty far in advance, which I think we did last year too. Again, jumping around in the itinerary a little bit, the last hotel that we stayed at in Tokyo was the Grand Hyatt Tokyo, where we did a very similar LP suite points upgrade rate for about 20,000 points plus $669 in this Grand Executive Suite King. And that is a much better rate than the standard suite points plus cash, which is 20,000 points plus $669. If you can find this type of rate, it's going to be lower cash and lower points. This one did have a higher base room cost. I think last year we paid $500 something plus 6,000 points per night. But the cash rate of that Grand Executive Suite room is $1,300 per night these days. So you can really stretch your points out pretty far if you're only paying 6,000 points per night for that upgrade. If you want to stay in a standard room and then apply some kind of upgrade certificate here, you could also book this hotel starting at 25,000 points per night. This hotel is located in the Roppongi Hills area of Tokyo, which was harder for us to reach by train. It took a couple of different transfers to get from here back to the airport. But it does have a lot of really, really good restaurants in the area, especially if you're staying in Tokyo for a while and you want to venture a little bit outside of Japanese food and see how the different expats of Japan, whether from other parts of Asia or Europe or the Middle East or even America, it's a lot more of an international feel in this area. The hotel is located in a mall. It's a very, very fancy mall. And the check-in process for this hotel was also my favorite. As soon as we got in, they just took us straight to the top floor into the club lounge, took our passports, did all the check-in for us while we just enjoyed some complimentary snacks and drinks in the club lounge. And it was the most seamless check-in process. So really good experience with the Grand Hyatt Tokyo there. Also, if you are just out of money by this point in your Japan trip, if you have globalist status, you can get free breakfast at the hotel in the club lounge and also free dinner or complimentary dinner because they have heavy hors d'oeuvres and it is more than enough to keep you satisfied for dinner as well. But the reason that we went to Japan last January and why we booked our flights the way that we did was not because I found flight availability, it was because I found hotel availability at the Park Hyatt Kyoto. This hotel is notoriously difficult to book. It sells out so fast on points, especially on points, because they only have 40 or 50 rooms on property. You can book a standard room with them starting at 35,000 points, which is what we spent. And the cash rate for this hotel is usually around this range, $1,200 or so per night. It's in the old town of Kyoto. It looks exactly like what you would want a Kyoto hotel to look like. The quintessential Japanese experience. And the detailing is so good. The free breakfast here is so good. The views, you're up on a hill. So it's a little bit annoying to walk from the Kyoto bus station up the cobblestone to get to the hotel. And I think we were the only people who did that. Most people staying at this hotel probably had a car drop them off, but my husband and I dragged our suitcases up the rickety sidewalk. But it is an absolutely beautiful property. And if you have high globalist status, you get the free American breakfast. You can pay an upcharge if you want the Japanese breakfast here. And they also had champagne hour every evening where they were very light on the snacks. They would give me 3 kernels of popcorn, but then 3 glasses of champagne. Feeling pretty good every night before walking out to dinner. Like I mentioned, it's pretty difficult to find availability with Park Hyatt Kyoto. If you are looking to stay at this hotel, which a lot of people consider a bucket list hotel in the world of points, this is what I would do. I would go to aways.com and I would search for Park Hyatt Kyoto on the dates that you want to stay. If you want to stay during cherry blossom season, it's going to be very, very difficult. I would recommend booking that a year out because that's when prices can also surge up to $2,000 per night or so. But what you can do instead is once you are at this screen and it says there's no availability to book with points for the selected dates, just click on the name Park Hyatt Kyoto, click on this green arrow, and then click on award availability. This will show you the entire calendar and it will show you for the next year or so what dates have cash availability versus what dates have points availability. So you can see around cherry blossom season, pretty much nothing has points availability. That's where all the NAs are, and you can see the cash rates sometimes are over $3,000 per night. If you are booking further out, sometimes it'll be peak pricing at 45,000 points per night. Sometimes it'll be 40,000. We were able to get it at 35,000 points per night, which is the off-peak rate. And we were able to get that for 3 nights in a row, which is pretty great. They have some of those in September. It looks like September is low season. If you wanted to travel there then, September 8th, 9th, 10, 11, 12, there's a few dates in a row here where there are 35,000 point per night rates and pretty good availability. And if you are paying 35,000 points per night for a $1,257 per night room, that's about 3.5 cents per point, which is very respectable, especially to stay at such a magnificent hotel such as the Park Hyatt Kyoto. Up next, we have the total cost breakdown for how much we ended up spending for all of this travel coming right up. Remember, points and miles can save you thousands of dollars, but it doesn't really make your travel free like everyone else on the internet seems to make it look like. I'm going to give you a transparent look into how much we actually spent out of pocket. And if you're looking for even more next level ways to make the most out of your points and save tens of thousands of dollars on travel, we have a couple of options for you. The first way is through the GeoBreeze Travel Patreon, which you can access through patreon.com/GeoBreezeTravel. Through the Patreon, we can prepare personalized step-by-step tutorials based on the exact routes that you want to see. We also host a live group coaching session every month. You can ask any questions that you have about points, travel, or anything else in the open forum. The second option is for business owners or individuals who spend more than $100,000 a year on expenses. If that's you, we would love to chat with you about our points portfolio management offer. I don't know if you know, but you can get some incredible luxury travel with that level of spend. Book a free intro chat with us at geobreezetravel.com/intro call to learn more. Okay, here is the exact cost breakdown for the trip. So how much did we actually end up spending for this entire trip? For the Las Vegas to LAX, back to Las Vegas positioning flight deal, with United Airlines flying domestic round trip first class and applying those $600 of AMEX incidental credits, we ended up paying $84 out of the $684. For the LAX hotels at Hyatt Regency LAX, we ended up just paying $180 for the base room, but then we got upgraded to a room that was about $450 at the time that we stayed due to the Globalist upgrade. For the return hotel in Los Angeles, we used a Marriott 35K free night certificate. I think there were $17 in taxes and fees, and we got upgraded to a $404 room, which was the 2-bedroom suite. For flights, like I mentioned, 368,000 points. That was a lot of points to spend on this, plus about $103 in taxes and fees for 2 people round trip. But the sticker price of that would be about $12,000, which checks out. So it's actually not a crazy cash flight to fly from Los Angeles to Tokyo on Singapore Airlines compared to something like ANA. It's about 3,000 something per person one way usually, which is still much more than most people want to pay for flights, but compared to a $10,000 or $12,000 flight on ANA, it's actually surprisingly reasonable, I guess, as a cash flight, but still a very respectable cents per point redemption at about 3.2 cents per point. Where we got the bulk of our points value from, though, was the hotels and not the flights. So with the Hyatt-centric Ginza, since we were doing that LP suite upgrade rate, we ended up paying $303 for just the one-night stay, plus 6,000 points to stay in a $738 suite. So that got us about 12 cents per point here. And then on the return trip, we stayed 2 nights in the Grand Hyatt Tokyo. Each night we paid $504 as the base room cost, plus 6,000 points to upgrade. That Grand Executive King Suite cost more than $1,000 per night. Last year, I think the going price was $1,053 for the nights we were staying. So that really stretched our points out to more than 17 cents per point. And then a lot of people would assume that our highest points valuation came from the Park Hyatt Kyoto. That one was actually just 3.6 cents per point because we spent 105,000 points for 3 nights, which would be valued at about $3,800. And it's actually one of our lower, quote, lower points redemptions because we got so much value out of these points upgrades. But all in all, such a great bucket list trip. Japan is one of our most requested how do I find flights here on points requests, both in the Patreon and in the free newsletter. So I'm so happy I got to experience this. In total, the points paid, we ended up spending about 485,000 points, so just short of $500,000. And then the sticker price, depending on what you're including here, if you are including everything or just the points bookings and ignoring the different hotels where we just paid in cash, or a free night certificate, or the positioning flights that we just paid cash and got a statement credit, the points pieces would be about $17,000. And we ended up paying a total of about $1,200 for everything, or $900 for just the points pieces. So when you average everything out, it's about 3.5 cents per point, since most of the points were spent on the Singapore Airlines flights and the Park Hyatt Kyoto. Keeping in mind, these valuations don't include things like Globalist breakfast at all the different hotels. It doesn't include the breakfasts and dinners and cocktail hours that we had at Grand Hyatt Tokyo, the ridiculous amount of champagne that I consumed at Park Hyatt Kyoto for the Globalist Champagne Hour. We got welcome gifts at Park Hyatt Kyoto and Grand Hyatt Tokyo as well. They were the most delicious strawberries I've ever had in my life. And if you're like, well, how much are strawberries really worth? In Japan, they can be very expensive. I think I saw the jewel fruits that were like $25 for a box of strawberries, $40, $60 for a box of strawberries. They can get pretty ridiculous. I do not know how much those strawberries cost, but they were beautiful and they were delicious. Also, no self-respecting points person would actually include this in their valuations, but I took a lot of Le Labo products from Park Hyatt Kyoto and a lot of slippers. Those slippers are very nice, and every day I would just dump everything into my suitcase. Housekeeping would come in. They would replenish all of the Le Labo products. They would give us new pairs of slippers.
and there were 2 of us, and we stayed there for 3 nights, so I think I went home with 6 pairs of slippers and many hundreds of dollars of Le Labo products. Let me know in the comments what you think of this trip breakdown, cents per point, sticker price, all of this. Let me know if this is a trip that you would want to do in the future, and let me know if you have any questions.
I hope you found those tutorials useful. Let me know if you like this style where we do a cost breakdown for a specific trip. Additionally, suggestions for future topics are always welcome. In the meantime, if you enjoyed these tutorials, I think you'll enjoy this video next.